Okay, well, let's get started, I'd say, because I'm going to just do a quick intro and then I'll hand it over to our presenters. So thanks everybody for coming to our first member workshop of the year. Yay! We haven't had one in a little while, and so I'm excited to get those going again. And today we're joined by two folks from Best Workplaces for Commuters. And as I said in all of our emails and everything, WTA is now a Best Workplaces for Commuters partner, so we can help get you signed up for this, and you'll learn all about it in the coming. I have too many screens going on. So, okay, in the coming hour. So, I would say if you can introduce yourself in the chat, that'd be great. Just say your name and who your employer is and what your role is. And it's Pi Day. Happy Pi Day 3.14. So, tell me what your favorite kind of pie is. And if you don't like pie, then you can just leave. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But my favorite kind of pie is my mom's apple pie, specifically my mom's. And I also like chocolate cream pie. I love all pie. So, and then while everyone's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce WTA. So we are the Westside Transportation Alliance, in case you're not familiar, and we are a membership-based transportation management association, or a TMA. And we're a private nonprofit, and we work with our members to encourage employees' behavior change for commute trips by providing information, incentives, and assistance about transportation options, including transit, bicycling, walking, carpooling, and teleworking. And I know that's long, we are working on it. And our work is made possible by with support from Metro and the Federal Transit Administration. And we base our work in Washington County, Oregon, right outside of Portland. And so a TMA, I said Transportation Management Association, there's another acronym in case you're not familiar, is technically an organized group applying carefully selected approaches to facilitating the movement of people and goods within an area. So like I said, we focus on commute trips and we focus on Washington County. And some more local examples are Go Lloyd, which works in the Lloyd District in Portland, and Explore Washington Park, which helps people get around Washington Park, where the zoo is. And here's all of our members. So thanks for being a member. If you know someone who's interested in being a member, just let them, give them my information, and we're always happy. We're always looking for more members. And with that, I will switch to our presenters' PowerPoint. And I will let Julie and Vanessa introduce themselves.
Well, hello everyone, and we are very excited to be here today to join you in your first meeting of the year. And so we have a really great Best Workplaces for Commuters program we're going to share with you today. And first, my name's Julie Bond, and I am the project manager for Best Workplaces for Commuters. And in that role, I manage the program on a national basis. And I should say we just added Canada to our program. So we're not only in the United States, but we're also in Canada. So we're excited for that program to launch this year. And I have been in this role for about, since we took it over in 2007. And I've been with the Center for Urban Transportation Research at the University of South Florida for about 17 years, working on commuter programs. Before that, I was in the West. I was in Salt Lake City at the Utah Transit Authority, so I make it out there quite a bit. And we're excited to partner with you all. And we are coming to you today. I'm coming to you from Tampa, and I'll let Vanessa go ahead and introduce herself and give you a little bit of information about who she is and how she supports the program.
Okay, so my name is Vanessa Wheeler. I work on the team with Julie Bond. I am actually a program coordinator for Best Workplaces for Commuters and also housed under the University of South Florida's Center for Urban Transportation Research. I am half-time based out of St. Petersburg, but I am a Portland native. So I spend as much time as possible back home with friends and family. So I go back and forth. So you may see me on the Max or something one of these days. And as far as what I do to support the program, for Best Workplaces, I do a little bit of interaction with our members, but predominantly I work on our communications and help develop the program.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. And can we move to the next slide? I think we're going to skip through a couple of our first. It looks like everyone is typing in the chat box their name, and we were interested in your department along with your organization, and then we had favorite way to commute, but I like the pie one much better. So thanks for that on Pi Day. So if you haven't already introduced yourself in the chat, please do so, just so we have an idea about who's in the audience. And again, I'll be presenting along with Vanessa. I invited Vanessa to be here today because she will be in Portland half of the year. And so she'll be your local contact, and she'll be able, if you need a presentation or you need some type of extra support, she'll actually be there, and she can meet you in person and help provide some support for you in the Best Workplaces program. Okay, next slide. So today we're going to give a general overview of Best Workplaces for Commuters. We'll talk a little bit about what it means to be a Best Workplaces for Commuters. And we hope all of you will become members, and we'd love to work with you over the years. Vanessa, I'll turn the time over to Vanessa. She's going to talk about some of our latest resources. We have an exciting new guide we're launching, and we need everyone's input. And we have some other great ways that you can interact with everyone across the nation. And then we'll open it up. We hope to have a discussion. So please, if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. We'd love to just discuss some of the issues you're having, ways that we can help solve anything that you need as far as your commuter programs go. Okay. So what does it mean to be a Best Workplaces for Commuters? And I think you can all raise your hands. How many of you have heard about Best Workplaces for Commuters, or have any idea at all of what Best Workplaces for Commuters is? So it looks like people are raising their hand. Okay. So looks like I can see, let me get out of the screen. Okay, it looks like a few of you do know who Best Workplaces for Commuters are, but it looks like we have many who have never heard of you. So we'll keep that in mind as we go through and talk about how you can become involved and what Best Workplaces for Commuters really means. Okay, next slide. Okay, it looks like, I don't know, Caitlin, if the slides are moving. Okay, so for those of you who have never heard of Best Workplaces for Commuters, I wanted to give just a little bit of background. So as I said, we're located at the Center for Urban Transportation Research, otherwise known as Cutter. You might hear us call it Cutter. And we're at the University of South Florida, and we're located in Tampa. And so in 2002, to back up, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, so the EPA, along with US DOT, so back in Washington, D.C., these two agencies work together to launch and begin the Best Workplaces for Commuters program. So if any of you have seen that Energy Star on appliances, so if you go and buy an appliance, you see the Energy Star logo, and you might think, okay, that's a great appliance that I want to buy. They looked at it from that point of view, that they wanted this Best Workplaces for Commuters brand to be that way. If someone is displaying the Best Workplaces for Commuters logo, for example, on their website, maybe on their human resource page, someone who may be looking to apply for a job there would know that that company, that employer, university, has great commuter benefits. And so that was the concept back in 2002, is they wanted to make it a really great program that had a brand, and people would know that that was a good employer for commuting. Then fast forward to 2007, we got a call from the EPA, and they wanted us to assume management of this program. And so we went back to Washington, D.C. and talked to the folks at EPA, and we took over the program. And ever since 2007, we've been managing it. We've been updating things. We've been listening to our customers. And we've been running this program on a national basis. And we listen to our customers. So that's why we have all these great new products that we're going to launch, and products that I think you'll find really valuable for your transportation programs. And we'll talk more about those today. So that's just a little bit of history of how Cutter came to assume Best Workplaces for Commuters, and how our team there came to work on this program. And it's been going very well. So we'll talk a little more about that. So next slide. Okay, so the Center for Urban Transportation Research at Cutter, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on who we are, because we also have other assets that you can utilize at Cutter. We were established in 1988. We're largely supported by grants and contracts. So you may see us working on all kinds of different types of transportation. And we're largely supported through contracts and grants, but we do have other research that comes in on a regular basis. And we are home to the National Institute for Congestion Reduction. And so that is a national center. And we have about 28 faculty members, 38 staff. And so again, if you want to go to our website for Cutter, you can find out anything you need to know about transportation, and all different types of research and programs are going on through Cutter. Okay, next slide. So I think this is important. You may be wondering, why workplaces? Why do we choose to work with workplaces? And so, you are at a workplace located in the Portland area. And so, how can you influence your employee commute? It's really important to think about how you influence that and what it means to your employees. And so there are many ways you may set their work schedules. And we know after the pandemic that we have, and I'd love to hear from you, how many people are still working from home. I'm working from home. Vanessa's working from home. I believe Caitlin was today. So since the pandemic, our work lives have really changed, and many of us are still working from home. And since that time, we've seen across the nation a big change in those work schedules and who is teleworking. You make the decisions on what type of incentives. Not everyone can telework, right? So you may be offering transit fare discounts to get employees to work. The workplace sets the parking policy. Also, for people who walk and bike, you may have amenities for them. You may have bike parking. You may have showers. But I think really what we're trying to say is that the employer, influences how employees commute, how they get to work. And that is the most important part of their morning, their evening, and their afternoon, is how they're going to get to work and how they're going to feel when they get there. If you look at the word cloud that's on the right of the screen, I wanted to include this because I think it's fun to look at. This is from a 2019 BWC employer benchmarking survey. And we ask employers what their motivation was for providing those programs. And so you may have some of these motivations, but back then in 2019, traffic congestion, you can see, was the #1 reason. And so that might have changed since the pandemic. Also, you can see employee request. So the employer was listening to their employee, and they were, they were requesting that they wanted, great ways to get to work. And work-life balance is another one. A competitive advantage. Many of the employers, universities, and sites I talk to, they think it gives them the advantage. They think that people are really looking at how an employer is going to help them get to work. And so that really is a competitive advantage for you to have a great commuter program. And so just other ones you can see there are government regulations. So I know on the West Coast, there are different government regulations that are different than what we have here in Florida. So that might be a motivator. Employee health is a big one, employee turnover. Different states also have air pollution mandates. And so that's a big one too that we heard back. So just a little bit about what we heard from different employers across the country. And I hope you find that interesting. Okay, next slide. And so for Best Workplaces for Commuters, we have 3 different membership categories, plus we have a Best Partner category. And so that's for our partners that are helping us across the nation to work with these different employers. So we have best workplaces, which will be for your general employer. So anyone who's an employer. We have best sites. And so the best site is that designation for a multi-employer development. So if you happen to be a mall or you have different tenants at a workplace, then best sites is the category you would apply for. And we also have a really great program for best universities. So it'd be great to get some Oregon universities in the program, or colleges. So we have that universities and colleges program. And so they, as you know, I mean, students are, and it's, universities are such a great place for new programs. And so some of the results we see from our best universities is really brings those new programs about. And we also have webinars. And so you'll be able to maybe sit in on a best universities webinar. And even if you're not a university, you might get some ideas coming from that location. Okay, next slide. And here are a few of our members. I know we saw the membership from your location for your entity, but these are just a few that we have across the nation. And we hope to get some Oregon people on there. I noticed that there were some Commute with Enterprise folks on, and we do have Commute with Enterprise as an active partner and member in different locations across the country. And so there might be a little bit of crossover, whereas we haven't had an entity apply in your area, but we may be working with them in a different capacity. For example, Intuit is one of our employers who has about 12 different locations across the United States. And so we do have members who are applying for all of their locations, but you are able just to apply for the location that might be in your state. You don't have to apply for every single location, but you can see Google is a member, AstraZeneca, Stanford Research Park is a best site. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of who our members are, but you can always go to bestworkplaces.org, and our full list is on that site for you to view. Okay, next slide. And Caitlin, I don't know if this video is going to play, but we did insert it in. We just wanted to give you a little view of some of our members, how they feel about BWC. It has us in it also. And so Caitlin, if it will play, we'd like to just play this for everyone for a minute.
It does not sound like the audio is coming through.
Oh, we don't have audio. Yep, that's no problem at all. I don't think that the sound's coming through. I know that's always something that tends to happen on these. So it might be a setting you had to click on when we all signed in. So Caitlin, yeah, well, we can send that out later for everyone to watch. So apologize for that. Yeah, videos seem to be just, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Okay, so we will go back to the part. Does anyone have any questions so far? And again, you can just type those into the chat. And if you have questions, we have discussion at the end, but if you have any questions, we can take a break midpoint and see if anyone has anything that they would like to ask. Okay, so we will move on. So this year during January, and each year we have our big list release announcement on a national basis. We issue a media release nationally, and we work with all of our partners to get local press releases out. And we work with all of our members for their social media posts and for them to really highlight their designation. And this year we had the largest year. We recognized more than 600 workplaces, and that included all of our categories, our universities, our best sites, and our employers. And so that is a big day for us each year, and we're looking forward to the next list release in January 2024. And so that's something that you can participate into if you become a member. And we have a really great toolkit that Vanessa creates for you, and it has all kinds of ways that you can market your designation. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of information on what our members look like. What benefits are they offering? So when you apply for Best Workplaces for Commuters, you're going to need to offer at least one primary benefit to your employees. So one benefit that you can see listed here that is a great benefit to those employees. You may offer more than one, but we require just one. So telework was our highest offered benefit. And even before the pandemic, that was also our highest offered benefit. You can see that's over 50% of our members offer telework as a benefit to their employees. A transit pass benefit came in, though, really close. So most of our members are making that financial commitment to give people a way to get to work through a transit pass benefit. And then you can see van pool subsidy. Van pools are still really big. Compressed work week, employee shuttles, a pre-tax commute benefit, and then a little bit lower are bicycle commuting, carpooling. We do see some members that offer cash instead of parking. So people will cash out their parking spot because they're not going to be using it. And that might be a benefit that a company is offering as a paid parking spot, but they can cash that out if they decide not to bring their car to work. And then there's this catch-all, which is called equivalent benefit. So if you don't quite meet what is required for any of these primary benefits, you can actually put in an equivalent benefit of things that you may be doing. And that's really great because we find out there may be things that are brand new that you're doing to help your employees get to work. So that's the equivalent benefit, kind of the catch-all. So that's just a little bit of information about the primary benefits. And I think that probably helped you think about, if you did want to apply, that you would need one of those primary benefits. And I'm sure all of you are offering some type of combination of all of these benefits at your workplace, university, or site. Okay, next slide. And then the other requirement to become a BWC is you have to offer just a minimum of 3 what we call supporting benefits. And so we have a really large list of supporting benefits, and you can choose 3 of those to meet the requirements, but then you can check every single one that you offer because we want to know what our members are doing. And so the one that comes up pretty much every year is that we find almost all of our members are offering some kind of secure bicycle parking. So that one is the most, and that comes in at about 59% of our members. And so that is the secure bicycle parking, but we also find out that our members are offering all types of other bicycle parking. Membership in a TMA, Transportation Management Association, or TMO organization membership. So we know you all are members, and so you can check that. If you have a transportation coordinator, if you have on-site showers and lockers, I'll just go through a few more of these. A ride matching program, flex time, healthy initiatives, electric vehicle recharging. We're seeing that that's becoming a really big item that our employers are looking towards electrification. And then if you do have telework, but it's less than 6%, you can count it here instead of as your primary benefit. But you can see there are 20 listed there, and we have more on the website. And so that's a really long list of different types of things you're doing to make your work site the best. And just a little trivia, little tidbit here. Harvard research cites that for every 15-minute increase in commute time, job satisfaction scores decrease another 4 percentage points. So just a little fun trivia piece there about commuting. Okay, next slide. So BWC members by state. So we have members in 22 states in the US. And our top state is the state that we are located in, Florida. We have the Florida Department of Transportation supporting the program. And so it's really a big thing here in Florida. California is one of your close neighbors, is next. Virginia, Texas, and then North Carolina. So we'd love to get Oregon on the list. And so that is something that we hope to work with you. And Vanessa, again, will be there to help support you in person this year. And so if you'll have all your questions easily answered about membership and how to join. Okay. So some of the benefits that you receive. So we are a university research center, and the main reason we do this is because we love transportation. We want to support this program, and we really want to see it helping people and making an impact. So one thing we found that really people in our industry don't get is that recognition. So one of the main parts of benefits from Best Workplaces is giving you national recognition. So when you put out that individualized press release, you can put it out specifically for your workplace, and you can put a quote from your CEO in there, and you're going to get your name on our national list. And the media might even run a story on you. So that is one of the big things. We want to recognize you for what we're doing. And so you're going to get that national recognition. You can use the BWC logo for branding the program, as I talked about. That was one of the main reasons that EPA started the program, because they wanted to brand that as a place where employees knew they would get good commuter benefits. One of our biggest values that we're seeing used is you get a free seat in Cutter's Commuter Choice Certificate program. We are the only commuter certificate program in the nation. And if you're not a BWC member, that costs $250. It is completely virtual. We host different courses on Wednesdays, so you can sit in your seat, and it's at noon. So I guess that would be 9 a.m. your time. And you can sit in for an hour on many different topics, and you can look at our website. So that's a huge value for you if you're interested in sitting in on different courses. We have guest speakers, and that is it's completely virtual for you. Free access to our BWC webinars. We just updated this year our commuter benefits guide. So if you need a really great guide on how to offer those pre-tax commuter benefits, it's all in this guide. You can just download it. It's a $50 value. If you aren't a member, it costs $50 to either get the electronic or the hard copy version, but that's all included in your membership. You do get a member certificate, as you can see in the photo. Someone is receiving their certificate. And then there's all types of different benefits that we have. These are just a few, but we have other free courses that you can sign in on that are all virtual, that are related to transportation. And so we like to provide as much education as we can throughout the year, the recognition, and we listen to our members. If you even need a one-on-one chat with us about something that you have a question on, we can accommodate that too. Okay, next slide. And this is also on our website, but we created this just so it's easy for you. If you decide to become a member, you can go through and select your primary benefits, your secondary, and you can download this and go through before you complete the application. And so it kind of just gives you a guide so that you can look at how you would go about applying. Okay, next slide. And we open the application period on June 1st each year. So that's coming up, and then it closes on November 30th. Then we do the national list release, and we need to update that to 2024. We did announce it in January in 2023, but we'll be doing that again in 2024. And so there's no fee to apply. You can just fill out the application and apply. You'll pretty much know, though, if you qualify once you go through the application and check off the boxes. And we do a really quick review process, and so you'll know really quickly. And before January of next year, you can begin using your benefits and become part of Best Workplaces for Commuters even before that time. Okay, next slide. And these are the membership dues. And now, because you have Caitlin and she's there, it's an approved partner in your area, you get the discounted rate of $220 per year. And again, when we took this over from the EPA, we took it over without any funding. And so we had to implement a very small membership dues fee. And again, we are a university, so every last penny of that just goes back into running the program. And if you do want to be a member for 2 years, which we found is very popular, then you can do the 2-year membership for $400, and you only have to apply every 2 years. And so that is the membership dues structure. And again, because you have such a great partner working in your area, you would get that reduced rate. And you receive all the benefits that I talked about that go with best workplaces for commuters. Okay, next slide. Oh, and that was going to just pop up that was your that was your approved rate. Well, so now is the time that I'm excited for. I'm going to turn the time over to Vanessa, and I'm just so excited that she is going to be in your area, and she's going to talk about some of these great resources that she's working on and that we hope to get some feedback from you on. So Vanessa, I'll turn the time over to you.
All right. Thank you, Julie. So again, my name is Vanessa. I help both with member relations and member support, as well as a lot of the communications and behind the scenes tools. So I just want to highlight a couple of things. Some of this will be repeat from our list of benefits, but I think they're important. And I do want to make sure that you know, as members, you have these available to you. So number one, the little screenshot on the bottom actually gives you a sneak preview into the members portal, where you would actually be able to download a number of resources, including some of the things Julie mentioned, like the benchmarking tools, some marketing materials in a toolkit format to help you promote your program. So we have some things that are fairly plug and play. And at any point, if you do decide to do social media or other promotions for your program, we're also here to help further along that message. And so we'll do what we can to share that along too, to help give you some additional exposure for that recognition. We have other tips for promoting your program and some practical resources and trainings. So we just have a lot of different things available. Go ahead and go to next slide, please. All right, so Julie touched briefly on guides. So I wanted to give you sort of a bigger picture view of what that means. Every year, as part of the membership dues and resources that we collect, we allocate time and resources to produce a guide. And we seek input from our members through surveys to identify what those topics might be each year. So we'll talk about this year's coming guide, but in the meantime, I at least wanted to highlight for you our two latest guides. So our partner guide, for anybody that should want to operate as partners, there are some step-by-step tips to help do that, support their programs and help recruit members. But the guide that you will probably be most interested in is our commuter benefits guide. And this is a guide that we typically update each year because tax structures and guidance do change. So we have just updated at the end of last year the 2023 guide to reflect what those tax benefits are this year. And while it's not legal tax advice, it definitely points you in the right direction to start taking advantages of the kinds of savings that you can have as a company, as well as what you can do to support your employees with tax benefits. All right, next slide, please. Okay, here's just a quick overview of those commuter benefits. So again, the $50 value, if you're a member, that's just rolled into your membership, and that includes, future issues as you remain a member. So I won't read all of these, but the gist is, helping you make some decisions about your program planning, because even if you already have an established program with great commuter benefits, we know that we can improve and we can expand, and we want to adapt as technology and other offerings evolve. So this is just kind of a hint into that direction. All right, next slide, please. Now for 2023, and this is an opportunity for all of you to participate in a dialogue if you're open to that. We can have you go ahead and turn on your microphones and cameras if you wish. But our next guide for 2023, based on a member survey that we recently conducted, the input was that people prefer to have a human resources guide. So something that speaks to professionals, helps cover the kinds of topics that you need internally to succeed, since often human resources professionals are the ones that have to implement the programs once an organization is in place. And in some cases, the human resources professional is also the one driving that process, particularly if you have a partner that you're working with, it's very realistic to consider that that human resources person might be working with the TMA. So these are the topics that have been requested so far in our other discussions. But we'll go ahead and grab input from you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is where you are welcome to share your own input. Even if you're not a human resources professional, as an internal employee or a program manager, or maybe you're in charge of parking, you know, these questions hopefully still apply to you and might be top of mind to you as you consider what you can do to expand support for your employees. So I'll just read these, but then raise your hand and hopefully Caitlin can help me go ahead and call folks out. And it's just we're just open to a discussion if you have any feedback from us, even if you aren't a member. All right, so questions that you have about commuter benefits in general. That's something we can help you with, but also what this guide can assist you with. Any obstacles that you can imagine if you think about promoting the expansion of commuter benefits to your leadership. And obviously, just open forum if there's anything else you have to add. All right, I turn the table to Caitlin. Anybody have any hands raised or have anything to add?
Hi. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really do appreciate it. One of the slides caught my eye, which was you listed the top 5 kind of program elements that you thought most people had. And that was, if I wrote them down right, telework, transit passes, van pools, compressed work week, and employee shuttles. And I'm struck by, I like putting things in little spaces. So I put like, some of those are the trips not taken. And then some of those are the trips taken by other modes. And I'd be curious to know, what do you think is the most successful? Is it to focus on the trips not taken, like telework or compressed work week or those sorts of things? Or is it kind of the alternate mode, the transit passes, the van pools, the shuttles? Which do you think, given our climate today, do you believe would be most effective?
Julie, do you want to start with that one?
Sure. So that's a great question, Greg. And I'm glad you were paying attention to that slide, because it's always fascinating me to look, because we compile everything from all of our members each year and look at what they're offering. And that was just sort of a look at what the most common were. But what we find is most of our members, what they find is most effective is that choice. And so again, I think that they're looking at their maybe geographic location. They're looking at, what are their employees doing? Who can maybe telework and not take a trip? But then you can't forget about those people who need to take transit, and they need to take the most effective trip. And we do have like first mile, last mile. And you saw like shuttles is very important. And I know Commute by Enterprises here, David, and the van pools become so important to like our, we have example, VAs might be our members. And so they are all going to work still during the pandemic. And they have, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 van pools going to work. So I think to the answer to that question really is you have to focus on both of those. I mean, you can say, I'm going to look at the trips that aren't taken, but those trips that are coming in, I can't forget about those. One of the other requirements of best workplaces for commuters is you have to offer some type of, you may be calling emergency ride home or guaranteed ride home. So you have to, that's one of the requirements too, that I didn't have up on the slide, that everyone who's a member offers some way for those employees who are still getting to work a ride home. in case of an emergency. And the interesting thing is, and maybe in your area, I'd like to hear from you, we're seeing all types of versions of that. So some people aren't even calling it emergency ride home anymore. They're calling it, you just get a ride wherever you need to go. Like, you get 8 of those a year. And so Commute by Enterprise, David, you may have some answers to that too about what you're doing with your van pool program. But that is what we're seeing, is there's not one size fits all. And we want to concentrate on, you may be looking at the environment, maybe your big thing too around your workplace. So, or you may be looking at the bottom line. I mean, we're seeing that our employers all have kind of a different motivation in what they're doing, but it all comes down to looking at each employee and looking at what their needs are and then meeting those needs, whether it be by not taking a trip or by taking a trip.
So I'll actually echo all of that, Greg, that was actually an excellent question. And particularly being familiar with the greater Portland metro area, I think some of it also just depends on what your actual business model is and what your employee population is seeking. And sometimes internal surveys and other feedback, if you're looking at limited resources and what order maybe to deploy services in, being able to connect with your employees and find out what they care about might also provide guidance for how to prioritize your options. Okay, looks like we have another question, and I apologize if I butcher your name, Pooja.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Great discussion, and actually Greg's question is what's prompting this question from me. So I'm a senior site planner with Intel, and I think in terms, and we work closely with Caitlin and WTA in terms of our TDM programs and bike programs. And so the question that I am struggling with is really, the hybrid model versus commuter benefit model, right? And so since we have stepped into this whole hybrid space, we obviously have reduced attendance at the site, right? So we have sufficient parking because people aren't coming as much on the site. And so in terms of the management, the priority then isn't investing in commuter benefits. It's mostly in terms of hybrid and telecommuting as a strategy to reduce trips to the site. So that's, and then even if we are to provide commuter benefits, in terms of the mode or the pattern of site attendance has changed drastically since pre-COVID, right? People aren't coming during AM, PM peaks where you could target the services. Now it's all spread out during the week and during the day. And so in order to provide the commuter benefits like, even with TriMet and Transit, it's a harder timeline to work with effectively. So that's where the challenges comes in terms of making a case to provide those benefits. But I can totally see a need for it because, of course, we have, indirect trades, contractors who still have to come to our site on a daily basis, but then those are not our direct employees. So it's really, it's difficult when we start going into the area of commuter benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone can agree the landscape has really changed since, the pandemic. I mean, work life has really changed. And I think that we're looking at, I saw there's different surveys going around so that we can get some answers to what people are doing now, because I think making the case for commuter benefits, like you said, is totally different. That's something that we're going to include in this guide. And so what we're going to do, this guide, we're hoping to get it out in December, but we're going to be talking to different companies and different individuals and looking at how they're making that case now with the different landscape. Because again, it is a different climate and every geographical region is different. You're different than what's going on here in Florida. And so we're going to look at ways that we can really kind of bring that together and have an answer for people. Like, how do you really make that case for transit passes and van pooling and all those other great things that we have in our toolkit.
Great, thank you. It looks like David has a question.
Hey, everybody. Great conversation. It's been kind of a wild ride through the pandemic. When you think about it, you know, transportation levels from a lot of our transit agencies, even our business as well, really shifted through the pandemic. Kind of interesting. So through our business, we saw a lot of our van pools, the employers that could work from home did work from home. So it's this great experiment that people in the transportation industry, you know, have been wanting to kind of push work from home. Nobody really wanted to implement it until we had that actual need to do so. So a lot of businesses have found a lot of value in it. They might not have to make that expansion to their work site for making that new building. Some employers, you know, they're also seeing some negative side effects from productivity, but maybe it doesn't quite outweigh the cost savings from facilities. So it's been a pretty wild ride. We had a ton of our van pools that were our essential workers, the frontline folks working in hospitals, folks in the manufacturing industry. So that's really been the heart of our business over the last couple years and how we've really grown through the pandemic. Just the folks that do need to continue to go into the facility, if they're part of the manufacturing or if they're part of security or janitorial or services, that they can't do that from home. So it's been pretty exciting to be able to continue to provide services and to continue to expand our program. We're kind of a small piece of the transportation pie. We're really targeting the folks that are traveling a further distance that don't have access to transportation. If anybody wants to chat more about it, I don't want to kind of steal the discussion away or anything like that. Feel free to reach out to me. But it's really cool to continue to have this conversation and see employers kind of push a return to work program. And with the hybrid mode of transportation, it's something that we've been keeping a pretty close eye on, because there's a lot of folks that, you know, can do some of the stuff from home, but they can't do everything from home. So maybe they're going to the office, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and skipping the Monday, Friday commute schedules. We're actually implementing a program here in the next probably 6 months or so to kind of target employers that are doing that hybrid work model. So I'll drop my email in the chat. If anybody wants to chat offline about it, I'm happy to chat.
I'm curious, Caitlin and David, how many van pools do you have operating in your area? And did they increase or decrease numbers before and after the pandemic?
Good question, since I'm still off mute. We had, so in Oregon, so I oversee Oregon, Washington, Alaska, and just a little bit of Idaho. For our Oregon market specifically, we saw probably a 50% reduction in our program in the pandemic. We originally thought it was going to be a couple weeks to flatten the curve, so we were going to park vehicles for a couple weeks. We were just going to waive rates for our customers. Couple weeks turned into a couple months, turned into a couple years. So about 6 months down the road of parking our vehicles, we ended up just closing out a lot of those van pools. As time went on, we kind of were hoping that we were going to be able to restart these van pools. The tough part about it is a van pool is going to have a natural attrition of ridership. So people retiring, getting a new job, or moving. During a van pool's lifespan, they're always going to continue to recruit additional riders. So if somebody retires, you're looking for one more rider at the work site. That didn't quite happen through the pandemic. So a lot of the van pools that we thought were going to restart really didn't restart. What's kind of interesting is over the last year, we're actually at pre-pandemic numbers for our fleet for Oregon. And that's not even including van pools that were supposed to return to us. So we're right underneath 100 van pools for the state of Oregon. Definitely growing. There's a statewide van pool subsidy program that's going to be rolling out here in the next couple months from ODOT, helping locations get some kind of subsidy that might not be directly related to a transit agency. So a lot of exciting things happening in our market right now.
Okay. So thank you, David. I'll actually applaud you as a business model having to be so nimble, because you're right. Actually, things are definitely changing. And I have also really enjoyed watching some of the silver linings that have come out of this rethinking what the workplace is. So for example, your neighbor in downtown Portland area, of course, is Metro. And in their remodel build out that they'd already had scheduled at the beginning of the pandemic, they shifted their focus and made it more of a co-working space so that they could be nimble. So there are definitely some great examples out there that we're hoping to highlight as we look for ways to support you, all of you. All right, anybody else have any other questions?
I'm curious. So we're in like kind of a suburban area, and a lot of workers in Washington County come from rural areas, and that's a big thing that I'm seeing on like surveys that we do, like in comments, like this, none of this is realistic for me. I'm curious how much you hear of that, and if you have like suggestions, solutions besides just, you know, telework.
Julie?
Yeah, so the rural areas definitely are much different, and you know, in every state there is some type of employer who is in a rural area looking for some type of service. However, we do have BWC members in rural areas, and we have found that they just are very innovative in their transportation. And again, the van pool program is a really big one we see here in Florida in our rural areas in the top of the state, because, you know, they don't have transit service. They don't have some of the, you know, transit options, or they can't walk or bike. And so they are members, and we found that they are just being more creative in the ways that they are getting people to work. And, you know, even with the benefits they offer to help create carpools, I've seen that's, you know, something that I've seen kind of move forward with it just varies so much by employer. You just have to have that employer that's really willing to put forth those programs and then really work to help make them work. Because again, we go back to the slide about why do we focus on employment sites? I mean, the employers really can make that work for their employees if they want to. But again, you're right. I mean, rural is totally different in the commute, but there are definitely solutions that work, and we have a lot of examples of those. And we're looking at doing more case studies too. So we know that case studies help. They're a little bit, they take a long time to put together, but we're hoping to get a few more case studies in rural. If everybody wants rural case studies, we can look at those.
Actually, one just interesting thing coming from the Portland area and now spending time here, because so much of Florida communities, while we do have big urban cores, there's a lot more urban sprawl and sort of suburban to rural interface when it comes to addressing commutes. Like even like when I go into the office, I know it's an hour to an hour and 15 minutes one way. I do not go to the office that often, but I do have a presence at the office as well. So those were things that, like, while I used to hop on my bike and just roll downtown or whatever. So yeah, it would be good to explore some of our, actually even just our Florida and some of our California employers as a case study, because I think there are a lot of lessons that can be gained there. So thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah. And again, we're taking notes on all this, and you can also email us, because this guide I think is going to be really beneficial that we're working on. And so it's, you know, we're going to look at all these different, you know, ways that people want to be better. And so just send us your ideas so we can get those at the beginning.
All right. Any further questions before we move on? I know we're coming up against a timeline here. Okay. I guess go ahead and go to the next slide. So I wanted to highlight one more service that's more of a resource to you as you're looking at commuter benefits and supporting TDM efforts. So this is not something that has to be a BWC member in order to access, but we do have something called the TDM listserv, where subscribers are able to go ahead and opt into the listserv and pose all kinds of questions, whether it is starting a van pool program, or what do I do if I'm trying to provide benefits to employees living in rural areas, or you know, just any number of things. You have parking challenges, or how do you consider repurposing parking or repurposing an office, as you are also reacting to changes in the transportation climate. So I encourage all of you to check that out. So the QR code is probably a bit easier if you're able to scan that with your phone while the slide is on screen. Otherwise, we can also follow up with a link for you to click. But it's very easy to subscribe or later unsubscribe if for some reason you find that it's not a tool that's helpful to you, and you can choose how to have those messages come to you so it's not quite so overwhelming. Maybe it's something you review the activities over your morning coffee. Go ahead and go to next slide, please. All right. What Julie was mentioning is that we do have a number of webinars as well as meetings that we host for our members and our partners. So this is just a list of the ones that are scheduled so far for the year. These dates are pretty solid. We may add another topic here and there. And as Julie mentioned, we are aiming to release that Human Resources Professionals Guide in December. So that last meeting on December 14, should you want to pencil that in, will actually likely be allocated to not only supporting our partners, but also being able to release that guide and give a quick walkthrough and tips to our members. So that is likely when that will be released. So just some dates to pencil in. Next slide, please. All right, one more QR code scanning opportunity. Again, as a research institution, Cutter has a number of different resources. This is another one of those free and available to you. It's called Out of My Lane. It's a podcast series that is hosted here out of Tampa, Florida. And BWC, as well as one of our members, was profiled last November. So I encourage all of you, if you would like to get a little bit more insight into our program and maybe what others are doing, this is a great resource for you to check out that issue, but also other transportation topics. So this is a podcast directed toward professionals who might not be deeply entrenched in transportation, and it just helps kind of come at transportation from a little different angle. So that's just another resource for all of you. Next slide, please. All right, I know we probably covered a bit of this already. I'll just pose this last opportunity if any of you have any last questions for BWC, for commuting. Maybe you foresee some obstacles you want to make sure you would like to have us address before you start thinking through conversations with leadership. Just any other questions you have. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna allow you guys to go on time. Go ahead and transition to the last slide, please. All right, Julie, I'll let you do any closing remarks, but thank you so much, everybody, for participating and hearing about best workplaces.
Sure. Thanks, Vanessa, and thanks, Caitlin. And I really loved the discussion today. So I think we could have filled the hour with just everyone discussing things that are going on. So love that. And again, we're here to answer any questions you may have about any different types of commuting issues you have. So Caitlin will just follow up with you. And again, Vanessa will be in your area in a few months. And so we just look forward to working with all of you and hearing about your successes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm excited to get some people signed up and to get some representation for Oregon, because there aren't any, as far as I know, from Oregon, which is terrible because we're awesome and very environmentally friendly. And I feel like we should be represented. And so thank you very much to Julie and Vanessa, and thank you all for coming. If you have ideas for future workshops, let me know. We're looking at doing workshops quarterly, and so the next one will probably be about a spring active transportation challenge. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.